Welcome back to another Catholic Messenger Conversations with Bishop Thomas Zinkula. Today we are going to talk about Faith of the Irish, our Catholic Messenger pilgrimage to Ireland, which we just returned from. So, Bishop, how did you prepare to be both a spiritual leader and a pilgrim for our pilgrimage to Ireland?
Well, in terms of spiritual leader, Deacon Frank, our director of worship, helped me to put together a little booklet that had prayers. He did.
It was wonderful.
He did the vast majority of the work, But some prayers each day. Here's some prayer for the morning and prayer in the evening, and then the Mass. There's things about the Mass in there, a liturgy aid and things like that. So that was something that was organized and planned and everything. In terms of me myself, I didn't do the best job with getting myself ready because I was just kind of trying to get things taken care of and think ahead because I was going to be gone for a while. So I didn't really people are asking, you getting excited about going to Ireland? I'm just kind of saying, yeah, but really I was not thinking about it very much. But then the couple days before, I really kind of started getting into it. And the best thing to do for people would be to actually, have a kind of a plan, what are you looking for in this, and just take some time for reflection, and like Lent before Easter or Advent before Christmas. That would be the best thing. I didn't do that, but anyway, I just kind of rolled into it.
That's great. What was your impression of Ireland, a country you had visited for the first time?
Yeah. It's a beautiful country. I mean, I knew that because things I've seen and heard and all that. Yeah. But to be there, I recognized that firsthand. It's just something sacred in the landscape and in the people. It's just all those centuries. I mean, early on, St. Patrick kind of bringing the faith there, and it's in the air, kind of. I don't know.
I did get that sense of the sacred there. Just being able to be in nature and going on walks, and even just walking off by yourself in some special sacred space.
And all these, monasteries and churches and shrines and all that. Some of them were broken down, because they went way back to 12th century or before, and just, there they are. This just says something to you as you, even just driving by them when we stopped at a number of them, but.
There's even something sacred about those sheep walking across the road when we were riding in our bus, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, I mean, Jesus talks about sheep a lot in the Gospels.
You were astray.
Yeah, right.
Which experiences on the pilgrimage affected you most profoundly, would you say?
I really liked. I mean, there's the cathedrals are really nice and everything, and the city. We were in Dublin and Galway and these different places, and that's all fine and good. But being a farm kid, kind of, I really liked those kind of desolate places out there, where there may be some ruins or some sacred holy places, whatever, or just kind of walking along there and thinking about people's faith back in. When that was alive, and just I don't know, some of those beautiful places. Those were the kinds of the things that I love celebrating Mass. We celebrate Mass every day.
Right.
What was the place? The Abbey, Holy Cross Abbey.
That was.
We just happened to be in that area, so we lined it up ahead of time. But it's just this simple church. It was built in 12th century as an abbey, Cistercian, and that thing was just kind of really happening in Ireland and kind of exploding in a way, that the monastic movement. But then it had, with the British, Henry VIII kind of shutting things down in whenever that was, 1500s. So it just kind of gone to ruins, and then they had brought it back to life in just 1970s,
Yeah.
And it's just a simple place, but I don't know. that stood out for me. And then we had the priest there, gave us a talk afterwards, and that was good to kind of help us to learn more about it. But like that was, and then in Glendalough, St. Kevin's, that there's the cathedral, that's kind of in ruins, whatever, but some substantial pieces still, there in the cemetery and all this stuff, and then we celebrate Mass at this church, but it's been there a while, but it was the local church, St. Kevin. I don't know.
And that was
those were kind of special for me.
That's great. That's awesome. And then I'm wondering, how would you describe the group that you led in your role as a spiritual leader?
Yeah, you never know with this kind of a thing what the dynamic is going to be, because these people are just coming from all over the place, and they were mostly from our diocese, except for two couples, right? And they were from pretty much the whole diocese. They were? Really, they represented the whole diocese. It wasn't, we have a lot of Catholics in the Quad Cities, but there were their share of pilgrims, but it wasn't like, that wasn't definitely the majority by any means. So so that was really cool to come together. We all had something in common, our Catholic faith and diocesan sort of home, and then the two couples really blended in well.
They did,
and all. So it was this camaraderie that developed, and it's
What do you suppose was that because of the? Because a lot of these people didn't know each other. And they said they were worried about that going in, that they wouldn't know anybody and they'd feel left out or awkward. And they didn't. They just kind of meshed.
Those ones from outside the diocese, you're saying?
The whole group?
The whole group, yeah, because nobody knew. Some people knew a couple people maybe, but nobody knew very many people. Yeah. So, I think it's like, I don't know, why is that? People are open to that. They're looking for that.
They were looking for that.
And you do have a common bond. It was a pilgrimage in terms of we focused on faith, and we celebrated Mass every day. People appreciate that, and we saw all the other, a lot of other sides too along the way that weren't just specifically religious. But there was a bond to develop. People kind of started trusting each other, and we had that evening where we kind of had a chance to kind of reflect on things, life. What we were experiencing there in Ireland, and people opened up and shared, pretty from their hearts.
Yeah, they did.
Pretty meaningful.
They did. You know what else I think was helpful is that very first night, that first dinner we had, and everybody shared a little bit about why they chose to come on the pilgrimage.
Yeah,
and I think that maybe people didn't know. It's they're sharing a little bit of their story, but it seemed like it kind of opened up a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. You're right, for sure. That probably set the tone.
Yeah.
Where did we do that at?
At that first hotel that we stayed at, that dinner that night.
Oh, right, yeah.
That
we
very
just took
first night.
time to do that.
We took a little bit of time to do that.
Yeah, that was good.
That was cool. And then what was something unexpected on the pilgrimage, and how did you respond?
There's, something like this. You have a number of people, a number of days, and this itinerary and schedule of things. There's going to be things that happen unexpectedly. One thing, and there was nothing that was a big, we had plenty of those kinds of things, but nothing major. We didn't lose anybody. Nobody got in any fights.
That was good.
Yeah, no. So, one thing that was it was not a major thing, but we were going to celebrate an outdoor Mass. That was the plan. We're going to stop and see one of St. Bridget's wells, right? So the plan was to celebrate Mass there. And I don't know. I was thinking, okay, these churches we go to, there's everything that's there, that we need. I just have my alb, and then it's like, oh, this isn't part of the plan. The day before. So then I at the hotel we were at, I weaseled some wine off of them. I washed out my shampoo little bottle thing from the hotel, and they gave me some wine. And then that farm we stopped at.
Oh, that's right.
They gave me a couple of some vessels to use, and then you can everything's on your phone in terms of text.
Yeah.
I mean, these apps and things. So I needed some hosts though, and I could have made them if I had time and a place, because it's just wheat flour and water. I've made plenty of hosts, just little things of bread. It's really
I know this is a dumb
simple.
question, but do you have to bake them then, or
Yeah,
what?
I know. Yeah, you
Okay.
bake it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But it's real flat. There's no yeast or anything. So
Okay,
but it's
yeah.
chewy, and it's fine. But I didn't have time to do that, and so I talked to the bus driver, and about some church that he along the way that we would maybe borrow some hosts, and so he'd called someplace, and he couldn't get through to them.
Yeah.
So then, well, what are you going to do? So we didn't, and plus it was raining a little bit. We wouldn't have celebrated Mass anyway. So then we went to the next the hotel we were going to be staying at that evening, and they didn't have a conference room, and they're like, okay, well, I guess we can't do anything. But then somebody stumbled across a patio, and so we celebrated a Liturgy of the Word service there, and it was fine. It was an,
You know what amazed me, because they said, well, there's no room for anything like that here, and then all of a sudden I hear we're going to have a prayer service in this patio.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like God provides.
right, and it was there was a covering over most of it, so
yeah.
the chairs and things hadn't gotten wet or anything. So
I thought that was really cool. I mean, it ended up being, we still had the presence of God well,
Right.
we always had the presence of God, but we had that spiritual faith community coming together specifically to
Right.
pray.
yeah, and it made it more special that it was just this spontaneous. We made it work. Right?
Yes.
Somehow it worked.
I think that was cool. And so I'm wondering, what do you view as essential elements to a spiritually enriching pilgrimage?
I wrote about that in this letter about that people received with that packet, about pilgrimage,
Right.
what that is, and so it's like being intentional is one thing about it. Pilgrims are looking for God on their journey, right? And in this case, we're looking for God in this Catholic Ireland that's had been been Christianity forever. So walking on the way on the pilgrimage with open hands and accepting the gifts of what they encounter, who they encounter, and knowing that you're a guest, but a privileged guest to be in this place, and speaking of the unexpected, be open to the unexpected, God's grace in working in these different ways. God's a God of surprises, as people say sometimes. So I think just being like a tourist, you see these things over there, but a pilgrim is moving more reflectively, and gently, with reverence, and recognizing that God is here more so than maybe just kind of you're on a trip and whatever. So I think it's that kind of a thing.
I certainly got that sense from the people on the bus and on the pilgrims. They really did. They gave that sense of spirituality, of that they understood that we could have fun, but also that it was very much they were anchored.
Yeah, I would say that would be true of every single person, all 33. I mean, nobody, if it wasn't somebody, okay, they really just want to go to Ireland, okay, we'll do this pilgrimage thing,
Right.
but then that wasn't really, they were really
No.
into it. There was nobody, you couldn't fake that. Everybody was in on it. That's one thing that I think that helped
Yeah.
us together.
And that was really cool. Where would you say that you met Christ in unexpected places?
Well, I talked already about St. Kevin's and Holy Cross Abbey and whatever. So but I think more specifically, kinds of in Glendalough, we saw. So we went around and looked at the cathedral and that other little church, whatever that was, and the cemetery that was there and everything. And did we see a video there beforehand or something? I don't remember.
We did. I think, was that the one? It's so hard because some of them got
I know. So we did other stuff, and then it was kind of raining a little bit, and people went to wherever there was some gift shop or something, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever, whatever visitor center. But so Tommy and I, is this young guy that was along with us, and I knew him from beforehand, and there was a couple of lakes up on this path,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So we didn't have very much time, like a half hour before the bus left, and so we just, walked fast. Okay, we've got 15 minutes to as far as we can go, and then 15 minutes back. So we did get to the second lake, but it was a beautiful spot there. I mean, there's walking trails there. You could, if I was going to be back there and on my own, you could just take a day and walk.
Right. Yeah.
So it was really special. And with Tommy, we're talking about deeper things. So that was meaningful. Same thing like at Knock. Again, it was, we do our thing. We had Mass, Apparition Chapel, and we had a meal. It was a hotel that was right there.
Right.
And we had this meal, and then it was kind of raining a little bit, but not bad. So I went out for a walk before it got dark. I just walked through town, walked through the countryside, and here's this holy place and this beautiful place, and that was a special time for me. I think, and also that we were talking before about that time for reflection. That evening, that was good, and then, probably just because as a priest, people will come share their story with you and open up. So I had a lot of those times with different people where they where they kind of wanted to talk about their stuff, and that's a holy time. Don't
I hadn't
you?
thought about that part. Yeah, that they would come to you and to
Yeah,
talk
right.
about
And there's stuff, So, I mean, some of it they shared that night, but others they didn't. But that's really a special, sacred kind of a thing.
Oh, that's great. And then I was curious. I mean, you always gave really very good homilies during your masses every day, and they were tied to that day's events,
Right.
Which you would have had to prepare those homilies ahead, I'm thinking. But did you shape them a little bit as you?
Yeah, what I did, that was so in preparation for this thing, that's this thing hanging over my head. I'm gonna have mass every day, right? I mean, we can prepare this booklet and everything. That's all. But then, okay, and normally, I mean, every parish priest has that, right? Daily mass. So the evening before, you come up with a homily reflection, and I could do that, but I'm like, oh man, it's just hanging over your head. And sometimes we were, we would be doing something, and it was late a couple of nights, And I took a couple hours one afternoon, a couple of days before we left. I just went over to my apartment and kind of cranked some stuff out, and the Holy Spirit was with me because it was kind of coming pretty readily, and just having a main idea. That's like so I'm looking at the readings. I'm thinking about this saint. And I just have something, and then
That's great.
And then you can play with a little bit, giving like you said, what. So it's one thing to, I know it's going to be this saint, I know it's in this place and these readings, but then I could bring in my experience of it that day a little bit, to shape it a little bit.
I've noticed I've asked people for their reflections afterwards. Not all of them have shared, and I understand that. For some it's very, very personal, but for others, many mention that thin veil between heaven and earth. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because that fascinated me, and especially I thought people were so touched by their experience at Knock, because I don't think we realized how those people had been suffering so much when that apparition happened. So it's almost like they needed that sense of hope that apparition gave to them. And I just wondered, a lot of people mention that whole idea of in Ireland they were seeing that or getting that sense of
why was that? Were they, in Celtic spirituality they talk about liminal places.
Yeah.
That liminal thing. That's what you're talking about. That thin space between this life and the next. And I know there's times when that's there, like when somebody's and going through the dying process, that veil becomes very thin, and I've had some really powerful experiences being with people when they're dying, and they're almost like reaching through that veil,
Wow.
and others on the other side are reaching through to help them make their passage from this life to the next. And I mean, Ireland is kind of a place like that for some reason. I don't know. You just feel that. I mean, the people were feeling that. There's something. maybe because of the struggles. I mean, death. I was talking about dying. And that's a lot of times when there's this thin veil, the struggles that they've had. I mean that the oppression that they received for centuries. Because of Cromwell and the British and Henry VIII, all that. I guess I knew about that and everything, but it really hit home for me as our bus driver who spoke. He was kind of our guide too.
Yeah.
He talked about that a lot, and he's Irish, whatever. Yeah. But it's true, and maybe a place like that, you're kind of closer to. It's a thinner veil because of that. In that situation.
I think another little element of it might have been a lot of us had family who came from Ireland, and so it's almost like you're touching your roots or you're coming.
Right,
I mean,
I
thought at one point when we were at Blarney in the gardens, I missed my grandma who's been dead for years, my dad's mom, but I felt her. I don't know. I felt like, Grandma, this is where. This is a country that you came from, and this is, so to me it was like to know what her people had been through, and that those are my people.
Yeah, I totally, I hear you.
So that was kind of, it was really special.
Mm-hmm.
Any crazy, weird things happen, or any, like you said, we did a couple of fun things too. I mean, not that wasn't fun. I mean, everything was there's a good mix of activities, but I'm wondering, we went to Jameson's to the.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I mean, people were in. I don't know what people think of when they hear about a pilgrimage and there's just mass and all this stuff.
Yeah. I
mean, there was a lot of fun on this.
There was
a lot of good humor, and people goofing around and kidding around, and and joy. There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of anything.
Well, like Tommy jumping into the.
Well, that's right. Yeah, Tommy is right. Yeah. Yeah, right. So Tommy, where were we at? It was.
That was in Cove in County Cork.
Right. Yeah. So we're there in that historic museum, history place, and the Titanic. Left from there and all that kind of stuff, and so we had mass, and I liked that church. That was. Like maybe the tallest.
Oh yeah, that was
That was a cathedral and a big church. I've been
it's huge.
Talking about these small churches and everything, but that was even though people are lost there because we have a small group and it's this big place, but that was a special time. Yeah, so Tommy, on the way back from there, we're going to the bus and. And it's like we had to get somewhere, and people aren't getting on the bus. I'm a little bit annoyed, and it's because they're watching Tommy, he has a need to jump into bodies of water, whatever.
He jumped right off the pier.
He told his story remember what he said about
Yes.
That
was really,
yeah.
So that tied it. It connected.
I know,
It made his jumping into the water so much more powerful.
And we can't really tell it here because it's kind of a personal story, but so that reminds us a funny thing. So that right there at the cathedral, the priest was really wonderful. He was so welcoming. Everybody was welcoming. All these places, the sacristans, but here was the priest there this time, and it was really good. He was so easy to be with, and so then there's these pigeons that were in the church, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
And so they had this thing hanging in front of the door, so that what was it, cords or something?
Oh, yeah, like a net. It was like a
yeah,
netting.
right. So that was really funny. He was. So, the church was shut down during COVID for a while, and then when they opened it up again to kind of air it out. They left the doors open. These two pigeons came in and made their home there. And so then he was kind of saying, I'm like, well, what did they eat? Well, he said they would leave, when somebody come in and they'd swoop out and be out during the day and eating and stuff, and then they'd swoop back in at night. And so it's like, that's wild. And it's just, and so then these pigeons die. Then they had these babies. And so there's like 4 of them coming in. And then those pigeons, the parents died. And now the second generation. It's been like 2 years, And then and they just swoop in there and make a mess. And and they've tried all these things to try to get rid of them. I mean, he was telling me all these different things, and some of them are very creative and clever, and people suggest things, and nothing works. And so then he was kidding, that thing about maybe what he should do is confirm them, and then they'll leave. You confirm, and then kids leave. So that was fun.
That was funny. What? So would you look forward to doing another pilgrimage? Say yes.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, yeah. Probably not next year or anything, but it was a worthwhile experience, enjoyable experience, and
yeah, that's great. I think it was too. We'll plan for a year from the year after next year. How about that?
Yeah, we can think about where that might be.
That pilgrimage might be. But we thank you, Bishop. This has been it was a wonderful journey, a great way to refresh and get it in tune again with faith in another place. Faith of the Irish.
It was terrific.
So, thank you, Bishop.
You're welcome.
We'll see you next time.
Yes.